Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we're going to talk about something different. You see, Venris and his team, these are the people behind SFO Grimhammer and alongside a few other SFO mods for other Total War games like, for example, Three Kingdoms, have just recently announced their own studio / their own title. So they made a studio known as Evil Gingerbread Studio and their game is known as Whispers of the Eyeless. And I've known about this project for quite some time now, considering obviously Venris is a very good friend of mine, we talk almost daily. So I've been able to see this in its rawest state being built up and just adding mechanics and stuff. It's actually pretty cool. So I get to talk to you about the game today as Venris was really kind enough to provide a press kit and yeah, let's talk. So what exactly is this game? Well, in its core, at least how I interpret it, it's a bit of a mix of RTS and RPG. So yeah, there's a lot of role-playing aspects here. From what I've been seeing as time has progressed, I'm going to say that if you like games like, say, for example, Disco Elysium in a sense, because it's quite dark and gritty, you're going to like this. There's a little bit more to it, as for example, there's management of stuff, like for example, cults. There's a lot of fun mechanics, but rather than just talking about it, let's just show you some stuff, because Venris was able to provide a gameplay trailer. And yeah, let's talk. So what you're going to be seeing right now on screen is gameplay. Now keep in mind that everything is subject to change. This game is alpha or pre-alpha at the moment. So this game is very heavily focused on a lot of different art, but you can move around. There's loads of different locations that you can actually visit. The map is fairly big from what I've seen. And there's loads of things that you can play with because you're going to have to dedicate yourself to certain gods and stuff. There's so much that I want to talk about, but I can't really talk about too much just yet, considering that obviously this is a announcement thing. You'll get more information as time progresses. But yeah, once you start looking to this game and more gets released, you'll notice like Disco Elysium vibes, like I said, Darkest Dungeon vibes. There's quite a lot here. What I can tell you is that every now and then Venris calls me up at random hours and shows me some stuff for the game. A lot of it's looking really well done. There's a lot of progress being done every time he shows me something, and I must say that it's looking really, really good. A lot of mechanics that he showed me, like for example, cult management is actually pretty fun, and from what I've seen, there's going to be quite a lot of replayability too, considering that there's lots of options that you can play around with. It's going to change up your campaign. Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised. Everything looks pretty fluid. Surprised in a good way, obviously, considering that Venris is someone that we all know. He's put a lot of detail into SFO Grimhammer, and we were all kind of waiting for the day that he announces his own title. And yeah, so far, I honestly really like the idea. The art style is great. The music in the background, which I'm not putting on, just in case is, you know, it's like claimed and stuff, and I want to make this video go out today. As fun fact, regardless of knowing the creators, the devs, and so on, YouTube will still claim you automatically, and there's like a process to go through, which I just don't want to deal with. So let's go through a few other details. This project is now live on Kickstarter, as they're looking for funding. Obviously, games aren't cheap to make, and they've done a lot of work as it is, but you know, realistically, if Venris wants a team, he needs to be able to pay them and so on. So yeah, this is something that needs to be done. That will be linked in the description itself in case you want to check it out and support them, because they're looking for a realistic goal, and I think that's really, really cool. A lot of companies will put up a really high number, whereas they're just like, look, this is what we need, and then there's a bunch of stretch goals, which will improve the game, add more to the game. But you're already seeing a lot of unique stuff anyway. The game was made on Unity Engine on a 2.5D scale, so the stuff which is 3D but not really 3D, it's kind of interesting. It's a bit tough to explain, but once Venris shows some like more detailed gameplay or gives us a build of the game to show off, because I will want to cover this game on my channel, you'll see what I mean. Like a lot of stuff is hand painted, everything is hand painted, so like nothing is generated or cloned and stuff. You're gonna see loads of unique textures, a lot of unique painting. The art style just really fits really well there. I'm showing off some screenshots too, because that way you can actually just stop and look at them. I like it. I like the fact that there seems to be a decent amount of management involved when you start working with the cults and stuff, at least that's what I've seen. It's very difficult for me not to like go into a lot of detail, mostly because out of respect for the devs, because I don't want to talk about stuff that may or may not change quite drastically. But yeah, so far so good. I did really enjoy the dungeon stuff from what they showed, as it was, it had a lot of feelings of, say, Darkest Dungeons, which a lot of people do like. You could tell there is inspirations of stuff, but also in an effort to push it and make it its own unique thing. Like, the art style is really, really good. Stuff like this is, you know, gritty, but not over the top that everything is just, like, confusing. It's great. Honestly, I think this project will do pretty well. I know that Venris has loads of plans. He says that there's going to be a lot of replayability, and I trust him with that. If you remember SFO Grimhammer, like, you know that he puts a lot of attention to his stuff. So seeing a game come out of it, I'm really curious to see what the final product will be. Now, there's another feature to this game which brings it to real life, which I think is really, really cool. Venris, as you know, is a big nerd, and nerds usually play Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, that type of stuff. So when you play through your campaign here, when you play through Whispers of the Eyeless, you will also then at the end generate a campaign that you can play with your friends as a, you know, D&D session. So your roleplay session will be affected by how you play this game, and I actually really like the idea of that. It's kind of cool. We've seen similar events happen, like, for example, I took part in an event which was run by Games Workshop, Creative Assembly, and Cubicle 7, which was a Warhammer Fantasy event with Total War Warhammer 3. So playing with a video game that then gives you a reason to actually have a roleplay session with your friends, yeah, it's kind of cool. I don't know if any other games do that, at least not to my knowledge, but this is fairly unique in my eyes. So yeah, like I said, it's a game that does seem to have a lot of promise. This is a small team. It's only around 10 people. So yeah, it's quite impressive from what I've seen so far. You've got the list there on screen right now. If you decide to support them through the Kickstarter for as little as 25 euros, which, yeah, fairly good price for a new game, that will get you the digital copy of it, which I think is pretty good. And you'll also be able to beta test the games too, which I think is kind of cool. So it says estimated delivery is March 2024, which would be around, yeah, a year since the Kickstarter campaign, which has just kicked off now. I think that's quite realistic given how dedicated they are. But what do you guys think about this? I know it's very, very different to what I normally cover. However, I think this game does have a bit of potential. I really do. We've all known of Venris's work for the past, 5 years or so since SFO basically became its own thing. And yeah, it's good quality mod. Obviously, they're going to have to prove themselves when it comes to creating a game, because that's a whole different kettle of fish. But visually, so far from what we've seen, from what I've seen, I'm impressed. Gameplay and stuff should come out soon, I guess, because keep in mind that obviously this is still in a early state. The game's coming out, next year? So they've definitely got enough time to prove themselves and showcase stuff. I'm not trying to sound skeptical here, but obviously this is the thing. You have to wait and see what comes from it. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to look forward to it. Obviously, there is a little bit of bias because he is my friend, but he's not shut up about it for ages and he keeps showing me stuff, which is a good thing. It shows that he's passionate about it, and it seems a bit more realistic than, you know, a few other Kickstarter campaign style games, which, you know, they ask for an unrealistic amount of cash, which is just freaking stupid. And then nothing ever comes from it, or it moves to a publisher and still nothing ever comes to it. What they're looking for is basically just to pay their staff to be able to work on this as much as possible, and yeah, I see that as a realistic thing. But with all that being said, let me know what you guys think about this. Do you like the idea? Do you like the style? And I'm sure that the Evil Gingerbread Studio guys, it's going to be weird not saying SFO team guys anymore. Well, the SFO thing is still a thing, but you know what I mean when I cover this game. But yeah, they'll be looking at this video. They'll be looking at your comments and all that type of stuff. So yeah, leave them below and let's talk.